much funnier to say ghosts with a Christopher Walken accent.
It just is. It's funny to say most things with Christopher Walken. Hello, I'm James.
And I am Emme.
And welcome back to the Bestiary, Monster Manual A through Z. And this week, Emme, what are we investigating?
It's a ghost!
Emme? Yes, it's the ghost. I mean, we always talk in sitting down to record the Bestiary and say, like, okay, what are we going to cover on this one? And in talking about this one, we were like, well, people know what ghosts are.
Yeah.
It's a ghost.
It's a ghost. I'm assuming that generally speaking, most people watching this episode will be aware. Ghost. Yeah, it's a soul of a person who has died that is bound to a specific location, creature, or object that had significance to it, and it has unfinished business. For me, the most interesting part of that is that it is, in fact, a literal soul. So a lot of times in some lore, it'll be just an echo or something kind of nearby to it. No, this is the literal soul that has not moved on.
Yeah, it's not like a manifestation of a person or a representation, or it's not like an evil spirit that is, taking over somebody's memory or whatever. It is the soul of that person. And for whatever reason, it hasn't been able to transcend to whatever afterlife should be awaiting it. In the manual, it talks about how somebody who's tortured to death might have a particular weakness to those kinds of instruments. The ghost of a gardener might be awakened or weakened by floral smells, that kind of thing. And so, in terms of the lore or how these manifest in a game, a ghost can be as varied, unique, and individual as people can be, because essentially it's just a person who happens to also be dead.
Yes, you could play with this just as simple as it's ambiance, you're in a place that's haunted, there are ghosts, no more lore needed, ghosts. Or this could be a character, this could be lore, this could be something that's highly customized, this could be something that is part of your exact plot or something that's tied to an exact area. You really have as many options as you can imagine, and so in many ways when we're looking at this, apart from some of the attacks, I mean, generally speaking, this is a template.
Yeah, I mean, they can fit anywhere on the spectrum, from kind of, horrifying, terrible enemy or representation of kind of the mood of your game. For example, they're very common in campaigns like Curse of Strahd. All the way to the other end, a ghost could, be a form of comic relief. They could become like a lovable NPC that your, party converses with on the regular. Again, they are as varied and unique as people can be.
Yeah, they're not necessarily something that might be out to fight your party. They might want to talk to them. They might have information. They could be violent. They could also just be there to kind of mess up your day. The one thing that I do think is important when it comes to it, again, you could change this, but at the very least, as it's written in the monster manual, is that a lot of ghosts don't necessarily have a lot of control over where and when they manifest. This is sort of happening to them, caused by an event or somebody being present in their location. You really, again, have 1,000,001 options here for what that triggering moment could be, but generally speaking, ghosts don't want to show up someplace. They just have to show up someplace. They feel compelled to do so.
Yeah, there may be some kind of trigger, but regardless of what that is, it isn't a choice they are making. In this example, in the art, we have this visage of somebody that at least looks somewhat feminine, the kind of wispy kind of nature. Obviously noteworthy, it's possible to see how this person died, at least. There's that
Seems
little bit
clear.
of space between the neck and the head.
The classic decapitation joke.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and this person is clearly carrying things that seem important to them. They're holding a light. She's got a necklace in her hand that seems to be floating off. It's got a symbol on it. Seems important. The symbol matches some of the garb, or at least that's what I'm seeing at the very least, that it seems to match some of the garb she is wearing. She almost seems to be wearing armor, So this one, again, if you're thinking about this kind of lore-wise, could be a guard or somebody who died in this specific castle. Yeah, she's pretty straightforward. She's a ghost.
It's one of the examples where what's presented in the art is very much just, this is one of them. They could look like anybody or well, not anything. Obviously, you don't get like the ghost of a chair. But they could look like...
You could.
I mean, well, maybe. Anything is possible. But yes,
possible.
Anyway, the point being that this is an individual, they could look like anyone. Yeah. Really, where the meat, if you like, pun completely unintended, of this entry comes is in the abilities that ghosts have. Obviously, them being incorporeal, they have quite a degree of resistances and immunities. Non-magical attacks they are resistant to, so they're going to take half damage from those. They're obviously immune to things like poison, is how you're going to poison a ghost.
Petrified, paralyzed, charmed, exhaustion, frightened, grappled, prone, restrained. All things it's immune to.
Yep, and even just its basic attack, its withering touch, is pretty mean. It's a +5 to hit, so not massive bonus there, but it's 4d6 +3 necrotic damage if it does hit. And so for a challenge rating 4, that's quite a lot.
It packs some wallop, and it's got a 40-foot fly and hover speed, so it can move faster than most standard adventurers at level 4. So it's not going to be easy to outrun. It become invisible and enter the ethereal plane. It can see onto the ethereal plane. So escaping from this is actually quite hard. If it really wants to come for you, it can come for you. And then its nastier 2 abilities are really, really mean.
Yeah, I mean, just starting with the horrifying visage, this is a saving throw based ability, just if you're within range of it. If you fail, then you're going to be frightened of this ghosty, and you're then obviously going to have to try and run away from it, which can really screw up a lot of simpler battle plans, because of course, how are you going to try and defeat this thing if you're always running away from it? But if you fail badly enough, if you fail the save by 5 or more, your character ages. By 1d4 times 10 years.
Yeah, consequences. And I feel like, especially if you're playing an older character, that's very scary.
Yeah.
That's 1d4. Again, if you roll a 4 on that, let's say you're playing a 60-year-old wizard.
Yeah, there are then going to have to be questions about how does this character work at suddenly being 100 years old.
Yeah, that's just rough and mean, and you can get rid of it, but only with a greater restoration spell within 24 hours of this happening to you. Again, this is a challenge rating 4.
Yep.
So...
And, yeah.
Yeah,
then
that's...
Then we look at its possession ability. Again, oftentimes in folklore, ghosts have the ability to kind of inhabit the bodies and take over the physical forms of people, and that is an ability this ghost has. It's a recharge ability, which it gets back on a 6, but essentially it takes over the body of a target. Again, it's a saving throw, charisma, but if you fail that, the ghost is now in you and controlling you. And smart adventurers will know that, like, the use of a turn undead ability, or dispel evil or good, or any kind of magic that might force it out of this person is going to be effective. But then you're looking at, for like at least a round, maybe more, you're having to fight your friends because the ghost is inside them.
And there's not a repeat on that saving throw. You are possessed. That's it.
Yep.
And the DC is 13. I mean, it's not high, but that's not low. That's really ridiculous. And so even then, I'm imagining some really fun things where, honestly, you could really play with that. Maybe if it happens out of combat, maybe necessarily the other players don't know. There's no time limit on that. So it's not like it lasts for 3 rounds. No, it's until the body drops to 0 or until they are removed from the body.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes! Yikes! That's fun. I mean, I can just imagine getting pulled aside by the dungeon master and being told, "Hey, guess what? Now you're a ghost. Have fun."
There's a ghost inside.
Yeah, congratulations. You're going to be doing what I tell you to now. Have fun. Especially now with modern technology, with phones and stuff like that. I know that sometimes
easy.
you could communicate that, and it could be really funny, but also a real pain. A real pain, especially because if they do have possession of you, and again, if it's out of combat, they could just as easily walk you off a cliff. It's really mean.
Actually, nearly did that to one of my players in Strahd once.
Oh, that's mean. That's mean. But again, that goes back to it's a really simple, classic creature that you have a lot of possibilities with. So if you're looking to do something really smart, add some ambiance, and throw your players for a loop, this is a good place to start.
Hit him with a ghost. Though not physically, obviously,
not
because...
Pass right through you. Thank you so much for joining us this week here on The Bestiary Monster Manual A through Z. If you were a ghost, what smell would be your weakness? Tell us in the comments down below. We'd really love to hear about it. And while you're there, you can like this video if you enjoyed it. You can find all the links for our social media, including our Patreon. We adore our patrons, and we are so very grateful for you. You can also subscribe. You can watch some more videos here. And join us next week when we talk about the ghouls.